And unfortunately, they struggled to remove the wax in this case, in part because the mid-canal, so halfway down the ear canal, there was a bit of a narrowing in both ears, but also because the wax was really medially impacted, it was really deep. So they saw this patient twice. On the first attempt, after they attempted to remove the wax, they advised the patient to use Otex, and that's one of the things I will discuss with my colleague, because that's probably not the right thing to do. I'll explain why a bit later on in the video. And then they attended again a week later after using the Otex. And I think she should be commended for that. She was just very open and honest, and she explained to the patient that she doesn't feel comfortable attempting to remove because she can't really gain access and the view's not very good with their system. So they used a different visualization system than myself. I've used the iClearscope, the wireless endoscope that I've developed under my other company called Clearwax, and this audiologist was using a different visualization system, which it's not going to be up to the job for these kind of cases. And the audiologist advised the patient to contact myself. The patient contacted ourselves, and again, we managed to get them in the same day as an emergency because they really were struggling, and it's been a few weeks that they were struggling with the wax. So we're just in the left ear here, and you saw the mid-canal was a bit narrow. With an endoscope, there's no issue, truth be told. Once you've acquired the skill and you've got the right training, there's no ear that you can't perform earwax removal in. And we're slowly just removing this soft wax. And this is where I will discuss with my colleague. The colleague's interested in coming on to the Clearwax course, and they wondered whether they can shadow me before in clinic. So there's no objection to that at all. I'm more than happy to help. But Otex, so it's a hydrogen peroxide drops, and so there is other hydrogen peroxide drops other than the brand Otex. So just in the UK, it's synonymous with hydrogen peroxide drops. Otex that's the manufacturer of it. Hydrogen peroxide, for me anyway, is probably the worst type of drops for a few reasons. First of all, it's water-based, and we don't want water in the ear if at all avoidable. Now, sodium bicarbonate drops is also water-based, but in some cases, sodium bicarbonate drops I still use in cases of a lot of dead skin, keratosis obturans build-up. Also, hydrogen peroxide drops are slightly alkaline, and the ear should be slightly acidic. So some people can get an irritation to it. Similarly, again, sodium bicarbonate drops is also slightly alkaline, but where hydrogen peroxide drops differ and make cases more complex is the consistency. It turns the wax into a mashed potato consistency. So what hydrogen peroxide drops does, they disperse the wax, they break them into tiny little, it doesn't dissolve it, it breaks them into little tiny pieces, but the net effect is that the wax is very mushy, and it can be very hard then to remove it. Ideally, I would have preferred seeing this patient with no drops whatsoever, would have got a suction grip and hopefully pulled out a big large plug of wax in a singular piece. Nonetheless, we managed to remove it. Now, all this bit around the edge, this is not significant, guys. I know there's a lot of, sometimes I do get frustrated when I read some of the comments, and when you've got a bit of wax here and a bit of wax there, so I have kind of explained on a number of occasions, earwax is actually good for you. We all have it. In most of it, it's an invisible layer just coating the canal surface, and the wax is greasy and oily, so it lubricates the skin that lines the ear canal, so it prevents the skin from drying and cracking. Wax is also slightly acidic in pH, so the acidity in the ear helps to inhibit certain bacterial and fungal growth, and it also acts as an insect repellent, believe it or not. And finally, wax is sticky, so any foreign particles, dust, dirt, pollen that enter the ear, they stick to the wax, and as the wax naturally migrates, it cleans with it, it takes out with it the debris that enter the ear. So what I'm just trying to do here, if the wax, the sticky wax that's coating the canal wall comes off very easily, then I'll just hover over it, but I'm not going to try and remove all this because it's going to be so uncomfortable for the patient, and the blockage is gone now. We can see the eardrum fully. Again, I'm just hovering over now. If it's coming, it's coming. If not, I'm just going to leave it in there, and I'm not going to make any excuses for it or apologies for it. I think a lot of audiologists that come on the Clearwax course, some of them, obviously they've seen my YouTube channel and they read some of the comments, and they get a bit, they're a bit worried themselves. Oh, should we be removing this? Should we be removing that? And I said, no, guys, don't succumb under the pressure. And I'll be honest, probably in the past, when I first started, there was probably a lot of pressure on me in a ways. If I kind of knew if I wasn't uploading a video and there's a bit of wax left behind, that I'll probably get some horrible comments. But and again, I would never succumb to that pressure because it's not right for the patient. So you can see there's a few hairs there, just suction that out. The ear's clear now. Again, I'm just going to see if I can hover over it. Because sometimes when you hover over it, it's not a problem. It just peels away. But the last thing we want to do is scraping and scratching and applying pressure on the bony part of the ear canal. Guys, it's really uncomfortable. I've had people in my ears during the clear wax training course who have made contact with the bony part of my ear, and believe you me, it's not a nice sensation. I can compare it to if you've got an exposed nerve in your teeth, and you have something cold to drink or eat, like an ice cream, and it stings. I experienced that myself, so hence why I'm very ultra cautious when I'm going deep into the patient's ear. But you can see with an endoscopic approach, we kind of made light work of that. I mean, we could have stopped this a while back if truth be told, but we managed to clear the blockage. And again, this is more on the cartilaginous portion, so we can put a bit of pressure there. Cartilaginous portion, semi-sensitive, semi-flexible, so it's not going to be as uncomfortable or displeasant for the patient if we put pressure. There's the eardrum. And now we're on to the right side. Now, the patient themselves reported the left ear being the worst one out of the two. The right one was a bit more impacted, it was a bit more mushy, so I think they put a bit more drops in here, and you can just see that consistency. There's no, probably, I was just trying to explain the consistency, and sometimes when patients ask me, and I kind of, there's nothing else I can think of, but other than it's like a diarrhea consistency. If you're a medical professional or student, you've got the stool chart, I forgot what it's called actually, the full name, and the different types of stool, the different consistencies give you an indication of your current health. And this will definitely, if there was an earwax chart, it will more definitely be in the diarrhea category, and it's a horrible consistency. And again, it's hydrogen peroxide drops generally has this effect. Now, it could just be this is the patient's natural consistency, but I think the drops definitely played a part. So again, similarly to the patient's left ear, the ear canal's narrow. I can kind of understand why my colleagues struggled using their technique, using their visualization technique. Again, not only going to struggle to get past this narrowing, they're going to really, really struggle with that technique to view very deep. This is right on the patient's eardrum. When I first started removing wax many, many moons ago now, I was using a certain visualization technique that within, I'd say, a week of getting qualified in it, I did not feel comfortable. And in a way, that inspired me to develop the iClearscope with my colleagues at Clearwax. And I've never really looked back, and I would never myself use that technique again because I just wouldn't be able to see this. It'll be a blind spot. What's strange and odd, and when I read some of the comments, I think a lot of people feel that the UK is the beacon in the world of earwax removal, and I would say that we've got some really talented guys in the UK, but where you may be really surprised to learn is that earwax removal in the UK is not regulated. I know that's going to send shockwaves around the world, especially in the States, but there's no formal regulation of this. Anyone can perform earwax removal in the UK, as long as they're not misleading the person they're performing it on of their position. So they can't go and say to someone, I've been trained, or I'm a doctor, I'm an audiologist. That is misleading, but it's similar to Botox and fillers in the UK. I think that's changing now, but and it's really, really frustrating. I know there's some companies out there who are just training non-healthcare professionals really to perform earwax removal to make a quick buck, and that's the God's honest truth. And it's quite worrying, if I'm honest. Now, I've got some colleagues in New Zealand and Australia that I speak to, and Canada, for example, on a regular basis, who are very interested in the iClearscope device. Just with COVID and stuff, it's been very difficult at the moment. So, but keep your ears to the ground. There's going to be a lot going on in the next 6 to 12 months with Clearwax, globally, hopefully. And it's a lot more stricter there. And when explain the decision in the UK, they're really, really shocked and surprised to hear it, because obviously, especially when they're watching my channel and the level of expertise that we can, myself and other colleagues can, who openly demonstrate on social media, they're very surprised to learn about it. So even some of the training courses that I know of, you can apply for accreditation by regulatory bodies, but they don't formally check it. There's some techniques that I just think, how on earth is that safe? Just the view, the way the device is held and the instrumentation's held, it's quite shocking actually. And even myself, with the iClearScope, I get so many inquiries from people who just want to purchase our endoscope device, and I've got a disclaimer with it. I says, well, unless you've had the training in using this, you are a risk to the public. The thing with healthcare professionals in the UK, where they can get stumbled upon, is we are kind of regulated ourselves with other bodies, and as part of that, you shouldn't be working outside your scope of practice without the necessary training by a skilled professional. And we have a lot of people inquire on the course who may be trained in removing earwax using these different techniques, but endoscopic is a different ballgame, it's a different skill set. And a lot of people say, oh, we don't need the training, we just want to buy the endoscope. Believe you me, you do need the training. We've trained ENT consultants in endoscopic earwax removal, registrars, very highly skilled professionals who perform microsuction using different techniques, and they do struggle with that. And they all say at the end, we're so glad we've had the training. So it'll be easier for me just to sell the device because it's just money in my pocket. But as responsible manufacturers of the device, we don't want to be doing that. We want to, not only for the professional's sake, because they will struggle, but also for the patient. So my business development manager for Clearwax, I first met her because her son was referred to me by a friend of theirs who's a doctor. And so my business development manager, her son had a problem with the ear. I forgot how old her son was at the time, but very young, and we managed to treat him very safely and got to the root cause of the problem. And now that she works for Clearwax, she's very shocked to learn what happens behind the scene, because as a layperson, as a member of the public, she automatically assumed that there's very, very high level stringent procedures and training taking place, and as you naturally would if you're a member of the public and you're seeing a healthcare professional, you think that person knows what they're doing and they've been appropriately trained. And she's very shocked to learn, I could have been one of those individuals, one of those charlatans, if you like, who just bought the endoscope and kind of trying to train myself on it. And she's put all of her trust in myself and obviously on behalf of her son to treat her son. And she was just shocked to learn some of the practices that go on. And hopefully in the UK we can make this a bit more stringent and stricter, but I won't hold my breath if I'm honest, because there's just too many hurdles, there's too much politics, too much bureaucracy that goes on behind the scenes, believe you me. I've been there, heard it, I've had to speak out against it on a number of occasions. Anyway, enough of that rambling on, but I just thought I'd give you that perspective about the actual goings on in the UK. So if you are in the UK and you need your earwax to be removed, please do vet your specialist. Don't have that don't have the cardinal sin of just, and it's I would totally understand why you would in the first instance, but you need to do your due diligence, find out about that person, if they've been trained in the technique that they're going to be using, because I know you've got that faith, and quite rightly, but it's not the case here. So that's just my little bit of free advice to you. Do get trained appropriately, to go and get treated by someone who's been trained appropriately, and ask for the relevant documentation, certifications. And these people that perform earwax removal that have not been trained using that technique, their insurance are going to be invalid if something goes wrong. And it's very likely that if they're using an endoscope and they need an expert witness to testify about the use of an endoscope for clinical ear care at least, that I'll be that individual that I'm called upon. So, and you're very clear what my stance will be. I'll be asking that person, have you been trained, and who's trained you? Because it's all good and well saying that you've been trained, but you need to be trained by someone who's appropriately qualified to be a trainer. Well, take care, guys. Speak soon and stay tuned. I've got some more videos from other clients that have been referred to me for